Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students, welcome to the online lecture on nonlinear control systems theory. Today we are going to discuss yet another special topic in this course, which is the introduction to stochastic control systems. Stochastic control systems, of course, this topic deserves a separate graduate level course in itself. So we are by no means going to claim that just attending or listening to this one lecture will give you expertise in stochastic control systems, but it will give you an introduction and it will give you some flavor about the stochastic control systems, and which will help you if you later on decide to take stochastic control systems as a graduate level course. And if not, even then you will have at least some idea about stochastic control systems. So stochastic feedback control system model, we start with this feedback control model. Consider the equations that x k plus 1 equals f of x sub k, which is a function of x and u and w, where x is the state vector, u is the control input, and w is the unknown disturbance. So this is a discrete time model. And similarly, y of k, which is the output of the system, which you obtain through the sensors, that is some function h sub k of the state and the noise. So v sub k is the sensor noise. Then there is u sub k, which is the feedback control law, which depends upon, so in this case we have considered the output feedback control law, where feedback is the output of the system rather than the full state feedback. And so if you have this type of feedback control system where you have random disturbance and random noise in your sensor, then what happens is that your state and your output also becomes random. Even since your output is a random function and your input is the function of the output, so input becomes random as well. So the whole system becomes a random or stochastic system. So first of all, we define the stochastic feedback control system model. So what is the definition? A stochastic system model, a stochastic system or model is given by specifying, number one, the function f sub k. If you specify the function, then you have defined the model, and the function h sub k, which is the output function. Second, you have to specify the feedback control policy g sub k, and then you have to specify the joint probability distributions of the random variables x naught. So in terms of the state vector, the initial condition of the state vector is random, and in terms of noise and disturbance, the disturbance at time step 0, the disturbance at time step 1, the disturbance at time step 2, and so on, every single disturbance is random. Similarly, noise at time step 0, noise at time step 1, noise at time step 2, and so on, they are also random variables. So here we assume that the basic random variables x in x naught, which is the initial value of x, and all the disturbance values and all the noise values are all independent random variables. If we assume them to be independent random variables, then it becomes relatively easier to calculate the joint probability distribution. Then this basic assumption basically leads to a Markov property. Markov property states that the future value of the state depends upon the current value of the state, and it is independent of the previous values. So in terms of probability, under the above assumption, the probability of the state vector at k plus 1, that given the state vector value at k minus 1, and all the history of states and all the history of controls, this is equal to the probability of x at k plus 1 given the value of x at k and u at k. So the next value of the random variable or random vector x k plus 1, it depends only on the current value of the state and current value of the input, regardless of what control policy you are using in your system. So this is sometimes also referred to as, so this type of system, if this satisfies this assumption that we have taken and Markov property subsequently, then this type of system is sometimes referred to as control Markov chain. So please remember this name, control Markov chain, and whenever you come across this type of name, then this type of system and underlying assumptions should come into your mind, and that will be quite helpful. Alright, so these are the controlled Markov chains, and next we look at the Gaussian distribution, because other than the Markov property, Gaussian distribution is very common and useful in engineering applications, including the control systems theory. For n-dimensional random variable or random vector z, we write probability of z is normal with mean value z bar and covariance matrix sigma. So this is the notation of Gaussian or normal distribution. So to indicate, so this we write to indicate that z is a Gaussian or normal random vector with mean value z bar and covariance matrix sigma. And the probability distribution of z is given by 2 pi raised to the power n into determinant of sigma raised to the power minus 1 by 2, and then there is exponent of e raised to the power minus 1 by 2 z minus z bar transpose sigma inverse into z minus z bar. So this is the probability distribution PDF probability distribution function for a normal or Gaussian random variable, so where this magnitude of sigma is equal to determinant of sigma in this case. So based on the Gaussian distribution, we can define the linear Gaussian systems. So these are this is the second way of representing stochastic systems, and this is basically a special case of controlled Markov chain, but in this case the probability distribution is normal or Gaussian. So here, as we had before, xk plus 1 is a function of f of xk, uk, wk. Now instead of a generic function f sub k, we have a specific function, a matrix A times xk plus b times uk plus g times wk, and instead of having y sub k equal some function h of x comma v, we have y sub k equals c of x sub k plus h into v sub k. So this, you can see, this is the special form of the previously presented system, where xk is the n cross 1 vector, u is the m cross 1 vector, y is p cross 1 vector, and size of the w could be different from the size of the input, but in this case I have just, for the sake of simplicity, I have assumed that the disturbance is of the same size as the input and noise is as the same size as the output. So this is the Gaussian linear Gaussian system, where A, B, C, G and H are fixed matrices of appropriate dimension. Alright, so next we have the independent. So here again we assume that the variables x0, w0, w1 and up to so on are assumed to be independent, and not just independent, they are also assumed to be Gaussian. So the probability distribution of x0 is normal with some mean value x0 bar and some covariance matrix sigma naught, and then this disturbance variable at any given instant k will be a normal distributed or Gaussian distributed random vector with zero mean and covariance matrix q. Similarly, noise vector will be at any given time will be normal or Gaussian random vector with zero mean and covariance matrix R. So here you can see that regardless of the value of k, the distribution of all the noise vectors is same, and the distribution of all the probability distribution function of all the disturbance vectors are also same. And this is the probability distribution of initial state value. But since I have already mentioned that if this, see, if your xk plus 1 is a linear combination of Gaussian variable, so a linear combination of a Gaussian random variable is also Gaussian. This is a well-known fact in the Gaussian distribution. So similarly, xk plus 1, or you can say x, the state at any time instant k, will be a Gaussian vector, Gaussian random vector, and output at any time will also be a Gaussian random vector. And we can basically calculate the distribution of state and output. The distribution of xk plus 1 given xk and uk will be Gaussian with mean value axk plus buk, and the covariance matrix will be given by G times Q times G transpose. So G is the multiplication factor of W, and here Q is the covariance matrix of this W sub k. So this is the this is how you can find the probability distribution, and you can see that this is satisfying the Markov property here, that probability of x at k plus 1 is dependent upon x of k and u of k. And similarly, y of k plus the probability of y of k given x of k is also Gaussian distribution, and this is c times x sub k. This is the mean value of this distribution, and the covariance matrix is given by H times R times H transpose. So H is the multiplication or weighting matrix for the noise vector in the equation of the output. So you can see here that given these this model and the probability distributions of disturbance, noise and initial state, we can find the probability distribution of the state vector at any time k and the output vector at any time k. Alright, so these are the stochastic control systems for you. And then there are some properties of Gaussian linear systems that I would like to share with you. We cannot go into much detail about stochastic systems in this case, but at least I can present some familiar or common models and one or two properties and a little bit about the control law design for stochastic systems. So that's what I will be covering in this lecture. So asymptotic properties of Gaussian linear systems. We study the behavior as k goes to infinity. So asymptotic means this, that behavior as time goes to infinity, or in this case the discrete time step goes to infinity. The behavior of the covariance matrix sigma k would be the covariance matrix of the state vector. And here, since we have seen that for x of k, the covariance, like we have seen in the previous slide, that there the covariance is G times Q times G transpose. This is the covariance matrix in general for x k plus 1 given xk. So this is the one step transition covariance matrix, single step transition covariance matrix. In general, if you want to calculate the covariance matrix, then these two equations, so initial state covariance matrix will be given, and then the covariance matrix for the next time step and the other coming time steps for k greater than or equal to 1, you can calculate by A times sigma k minus 1. For k is equal to 1, this will be sigma naught, and A transpose, so A sigma naught A transpose plus G Q G transpose, that will give you the covariance matrix for k equal 1. Then similarly you can find sigma matrix for k equal 2 using the sigma matrix for k equal 1, and so on. So if you substitute repeatedly into this equation, then you can write the combination of two equations as one equation, that sigma k, this is the k step transition. So so sigma k is the covariance matrix of the state vector after k steps. So after k steps, the transition in terms of initial covariance. So this is the covariance matrix in terms of initial covariance matrix. So this is the initial covariance matrix. It will be multiplied by a raised to the power number of steps, and post multiplied by transpose of a multiply a raised to the power number of steps, plus sum of j equals 0 to k minus 1 a raised to the power j times g q g transpose, and post multiplied by transpose of a raised to the power j. So this is the simple formula that you can use to calculate the covariance of state matrix at any point. Then there is a theorem that if A is stable, so remember that stability for the discrete time case requires that eigenvalues should lie within the unit circle. So for continuous time case, eigenvalues have to be in the left half plane for the matrix to be asymptotically stable or stable. For stability, you can allow the eigenvalues to be on the j omega axis. Similarly, for discrete time case, the eigenvalues have to be within the unit circle for A to be asymptotically stable, and if one or two eigenvalues are on the boundary of the unit circle, that's acceptable as long as the boundary eigenvalues on the boundary are not repeated eigenvalues. So so if A is stable, then there is a positive semi-definite matrix sigma infinity such that the limit k approaches infinity, sigma k is sigma infinity. So this covariance basically converges to a fixed covariance matrix. Moreover, this fixed covariance matrix is a unique solution of the linear equation this. So if you want to determine what would be the covariance of a matrix, the covariance of the state vector after a long time, then you can find it using this equation, given that A is stable. So if A is stable, then you can find the steady state covariance of state vector by A sigma infinity A transpose plus G Q G transpose is equal to sigma infinity. You solve this equation, this is a linear equation, and you calculate sigma infinity from this equation, and that will give you the steady state covariance of the state vector. Then there is reachability property. So a pair of matrices A, B is of dimension, so A is dimension n cross n and B is dimension n cross m respectively, is said to be reachable if the matrix, sorry, this should be B, the matrix B, AB, A square B, and up to so on A n minus 1 B has rank n. So here I think I should correct this one, this should be B here. Okay, so reachability is that this matrix, if this matrix has rank n, then your system is said to be reachable. Then there is a theorem that suppose that AB is reachable pair, and then the following statements are equivalent. So we look at the statements in a moment. So the first statement is that A is stable, and the second statement is the equation sigma equal A sigma A transpose plus B times B transpose has a positive definite solution sigma. And then the third statement is that if B transpose is equal to G Q G transpose, then sigma K converges to a positive definite matrix sigma infinity as k goes to infinity. So we have already looked at how to find the asymptotic covariance matrix for state vector, and here in terms of reachability, this thing is given in another aspect, that the steady state will exist. The existence of steady state is equivalent to A being stable, and this is equivalent to this equation being true, and also all these three statements are equivalent if AB is a reachable pair. So this is another property regarding the stochastic linear Gaussian systems. And next we go on to finite horizon optimal control of a Markov chain using dynamic programming. So this should be the last thing that I would like to cover in this lecture, because so far I have covered the controlled Markov chain model, the linear Gaussian control system model, and then some properties of the linear Gaussian control system, and then finally we can conclude this lecture with the finite horizon optimal control of a Markov chain using dynamic programming. So this will cover a fair amount of variety within the topics of stochastic control systems in terms of variety of concepts, not the depth of concepts or not the number of concepts. So there are a lot of topics, a lot of depths to be discussed about stochastic control systems, but here we are just touching or skimming through the surface. So for finite horizon optimal control, finite horizon means that you are trying to control the system in between certain time duration, fixed and finite time duration. And optimal control, that obviously it means that there is some underlying cost function which you want to minimize, and Markov chain means that the stochastic system that you would be discussing will satisfy Markov property using dynamic programming. So dynamic programming is a tool or algorithm that we will be looking at shortly. Consider the following equations: xk plus 1 equal f sub k, y sub k is equal to h sub k, and u sub k is equal to g sub k. So these are all functions. This is the dynamics of the system, this is the output dynamics or the equation of the output, and this is the control policy. And then suppose we are given the cost function of this sort, where you have a terminal cost and you have the incremental cost. Incremental cost is incremental cost applies to every time step of control that you incorporate. So from k is equal to 0 to n minus 1, you have c sub k, which is dependent upon state and control input, and there is a terminal cost at the end which only depends upon the final value of the state vector. So this is very similar to the Bolt's problem that we discussed previously in the optimal control lecture, but that was in continuous time domain and this one is in discrete time. So where n is a finite control horizon, and ck is the incremental cost and cn is the terminal cost for the system. A control law in this case is specified by the function g which has values g at time step 0, g at time step 1, g at time step 2, and up to so on, g at time step n minus 1. At the final time step we do not or cannot exercise any control input. We can only apply control input from 0 time to n minus 1 time step, and whatever control we apply at the time step n minus 1, that will result in the state at x at time step n, and there we stop the control execution. So how do we control this system? How do we find the optimal control policy that will minimize this cost function? So what happens is that because this is a stochastic system, we cannot minimize the absolute value of this cost function. So what we do is we rather minimize the expected value. Expected value is basically the average value in terms of probability. So it is the weighted sum of in terms of where the weights are basically the probability values. So expected, if you don't remember what expected value is, please refer to your probability theory class in your undergraduate. So we basically minimize the expected value of this cost function. And how do we minimize the expected value of cost function? We have a theorem for that. Define the following function recursively. The function v sub n of x is defined to be equal to the terminal cost, the value of the terminal cost that we have defined. Then v sub k of x is defined to be the infimum Infimum is same as minimum, but it's a little bit different because minimum may not always exist, but infimum always exists. So infimum over all control inputs in the set of possible control inputs. Infimum over this function. What is this function? This is the incremental cost plus the expected value with respect to the disturbance of the value at k plus 1. This is basically you call this value function. So the value, the expression for value function at time step n is c sub n. The expression for value function at any time step less than n would be given by this equation. So if let's suppose k is equal to n minus 1, then here it will be v sub n. V sub n is usually the function of the dynamics of the state equation, but here in case of the terminal value function, the value function at terminal step time, final time step, the terminal cost is used to define the v sub n. But in general it is the function of f sub k of x, u and wk. So you find the expected value at the incremental cost, and for all the possible values of the input u, you find the infimum. So whatever the infimum comes, that will be the value of this function at this state. So you have to find v sub k at every possible state, and within each state you have to evaluate this function for every possible control input and find the control input that renders the minimum value of this function, and that control input will be the optimal control for that state at that time step. So that will be the value of the state at a given time step. So u is the set of all feasible values of control input, and e denotes the expected value. Okay, number 1, the theorem is still continued. So first part of the theorem is that you defined a recursive formulation of the value function. The second part of the theorem is that let G belong to some set of policies be arbitrary. So you have some arbitrary control policy. Then V sub k at x, so the value of x will depend upon what G you are using. So here superscript G is specifying that this value that you have identified for a state at time step k using a control policy G is less than or equal to the cost function, the overall cost at time step k, and using the same control policy G with probability 1. So this means that the value will always be less than or equal to the actual cost that you may incur in the control problem. Alright, so in particular the cost function for any given control policy will be greater than the expected value of v0 of x0, which is the expected value of the value function at initial time step with the initial state vector. A Markov policy G, which is basically G0, G1, G2, G3 up to so on Gn minus 1, belong to a set of Markov policies, is optimal if infimum in above equation is achieved, the infimum in this equation. So infimum in above equation is achieved at G sub k of x. So if you achieve the infimum at this policy, so at G0 you achieve the infimum of this equation at time step 0. For G1 you achieve the infimum of this equation at time step 1. For up to so on Gk you achieve the infimum of this equation at time step k, and then your value will always be less than or equal to cost function as we have stated already above with probability 1, and the optimal cost will be equal to the cost with the, so in this case the in general optimal cost will be greater than or equal to this expected value, but for optimal policy the optimal cost will be equal to, exactly equal to the expected value of the v at 0 given the state vector at 0. And similarly a Markov policy which is which belongs to a set of Markov policies is optimal only if for each k, for each time step, the infimum at the state, at every state basically, given the policy g in the above equation is achieved by g sub k of x k g. So that means that the value function of x with the control policy g is equal to ck, and this is the incremental cost plus expected value of v sub k plus 1. So this is basically stating that for every state variable value the infimum, so if you apply the control policy g, then this will be equal to the left hand side will be equal to the right hand side, and that will happen with probability 1. So I know this is a little bit of complicated when stated in a mathematical way, but if I were to state this in simple words, so in simple words the thing is that at every time step for all possible values of the states you have to find the value of u that you can use to minimize this whole expression, and once you find the value of u that minimizes this whole expression, this one value of u will become policy. So this will become policy for this state at this time step. For each time step for all possible states you have to find the value of u. So for finding a single value of u you have to compare between all possible values of u. So I hope I can repeat this once more, that in order to determine the control policy you have to find the best value of u for each possible state at each possible time step. So, and in order to find the best value of u for each possible state at each possible time step, you have to compare between all different values of u and find the best one. So this is optimization at every state value at every time step, and we will see a practical example of it, because I don't expect you to fully understand this just based on the narrative explanation or mathematical representation. So let us consider a person is walking from home towards his office. So here is the home of the person and here is the office of the person. His office is 3 blocks away from home. Okay, so if he walks 1 block he reaches rest area 1. If he walks another block, total 2 blocks, he reaches rest area 2, and when he walks 3 blocks he reaches his office. And the weather forecast is rainy, so the weather is about to, so it's I mean I don't need to explain this. The weather forecast is rainy means that there is a huge chance that it might rain. The person does not own an umbrella and has to attend a meeting today, so he has to go to the office to attend the meeting. But of course since it is a meeting in the office, he does not want to attend the meeting with wet clothes. That will be a bad impression. There are resting shades after each block, as you can see here, resting area 1, resting area 2, on the way to avoid getting wet. So at each time step the person has 2 options. He can walk and he can wait. So if he decides to walk, he will use up 1 time step and will have crossed 1 block. And if he decides to wait, he will have wasted a time equivalent to the time he would have used to walk one more block, and he would have saved himself from getting wet. Walking advances the position of the person by one block, and waiting or walking in the rain will advance the wetness of his clothes by 1 unit value. Calculate the optimal control policy for horizon of length 3 such that there is 1 unit cost for walking. So this is the cost function. 2 unit cost for waiting, and also there is 10 unit of cost for being wet at the end of the horizon, and 20 unit cost for not reaching the office by the end of the horizon. So these are the terminal cost. So 10 unit cost for if the terminal dryness of his clothes is not good enough, and if the terminal position of the person is not close enough to the office, then there is a 20 unit cost proportional to that. So we continue with the example. We have the states of the example are x1. x1 is the state which is position. The position at time k plus 1 is equal to position at time step k plus the control decision. So if the control decision is to walk, then this u will become 1, and if control decision is to wait, then this u will be 0. So if this u is 0, then position at k plus 1 will be equal to position at k, and if this u is 1, then position at k plus 1 will be position at k plus 1. So this is the wetness level, second state. So wetness at k plus 1 is wetness at k plus this w represents the rain, which is a random event, and times u, which is the walking action as above. So if the person walks and it is raining, then 1 into 1, this factor will become 1. So if the person walks in the rain, then the wetness level will increase, otherwise wetness level will stay the same. Alright, so next so this x1 is the position of the person at time step k, u is the binary decision, which is 1 for walking and 0 for waiting. Also x2k is the wetness of the person's clothes at time k, wk is the rain event, wk is 1 for raining and wk is 0 for no rain, and that is a random variable. Measurement at each time is assumed to be the value of both the states, so we are assuming full state feedback here. The probability of raining at any time is 0.75, and so similarly the probability of not raining is 0.25. I don't have to write it down because sum of the probabilities of all possible values of wk will always be 1. This is the general rule of probability. So the cost function will become j is equal to, this is the you can say the incremental cost. The incremental cost is 1 unit if u is equal to 1, which is the decision of walking, and 2 units if u is equal to 0. So if u is equal to 1, this term will vanish, and if u is equal to 0, this term will vanish. So in any case, the terminal cost will depend upon whether the person decides to walk. The incremental cost will depend upon whether the person decides to walk or wait. So incremental cost is depending upon the decision of walking or waiting, and this is the terminal cost. So this is the value of x2 at final time step 3. So remember, we have assumed the horizon of the problem to be 3 time steps. So at final time step, which is the 3 is equal to capital N in this case, thus the value of state 2 proportional to proportionality factor. So 10 unit cost proportional to the wetness, that will be the terminal cost, and 20 units cost proportional to the difference between the office location. Office location is 3. So remember, the home is located at position 0, and at position 1 there is resting area 1, at position 2 there is resting area 2, and at position 3 there is office. So if x1 at time step 3 is equal to 3, then there will be no terminal cost. Otherwise there will be terminal cost proportional to the difference between the office location and the location of the person. So we continue with the formulation of the problem. Calculate the value function at the end of the horizon. So first, a value function v sub n at x1 x2, we can calculate it using v sub n is equal to c sub n, if you remember from the slide before, the previous slide. So c sub n, in this case the terminal cost is 10 into x sub 2 comma 3 and 20 into 3 minus x sub 1 comma 3. So this is the terminal cost and value function. You can find the value function at time step 3 for all possible values of x1 and x2. For example, the value function at time step 3 with x1 0 and x2 0 is 20. Value function at time step 3 with x1 0 and x2 1 will be 30, and you can verify that and calculate that. So value function at time step 3 with the state x1 equal 3 and x2 equal 3, that will be 30. So similarly there are 9 possible state combinations. So there are 9 possible values of the state vector in this case. So for all 9 possible values of the state vector, you have to calculate the value function at time step 3. So these are the total 9 calculations for this step. Then you calculate the value function at time step 2 and time step 1 and time step 0. So how do you do that? You use this equation. V sub k is defined to be equal to infimum over u belong to all the possible values of u, and incremental cost plus expected cost with respect to the disturbance or random variable of the v k plus 1, which is the next step value function of the same state variable. Okay, so in this case if we plug in the value, you can see that v sub 2 of x1 x2, that will be equal to infimum of, in our case, the feasible values of the u at time step 2 is 0 or 1. So at time step 2 we can either wait or walk. So the cost function will be u2 plus 2 into 1 minus u2 plus expected value will become the probability times the actual value plus the next probability times the next actual value. So this is the expected value expanded in terms of probability. So 0.75 into, so this is the probability of raining. So in this case v sub 3 will be x sub 1. So this is the first state at time step 2 plus u sub 2, which is the control action, and the second state plus u sub 2, because in this case w sub 2 is 1, because 0.75 is the probability that w sub 2 will be 1, and in this case 0.25 probability w sub 2 is 0. So this will remain the same as here, because there is no w in the equation of x1 state, and the x2 state will have no second term because w2 in this case here is 0. So x2 comma 2 will remain the same in case of no rain. So this is the equation. We plug in some values. For example, if we calculate the v sub 2 for state 0 0, then this will become, so for u2 equal 1, so for the action of walking at state 0 0, you calculate the value at time step 2, and that will become, so since u is 1, so this will become 1, and 1 minus 1 will become 0, so this term will go away. 1 plus 0.75, x12 is 0, so 0 plus u2 will be 1, and similarly x2 is 0, but 0 plus u2, since u2 is 1, so this will become 1 1, and we will have to substitute the value of v sub 3 of 1 comma 1, and then 0.25 into v sub 3 of, this will remain 0 plus 1 will be 1, and here x22 is 0, so it will remain 0. So this, if you plug in the values, you will get v sub 2 at state 0 0 for the action u2 equal 1 will evaluate to 48.5. 5. Similarly, if we evaluate v sub 2 at the same state for the other option u2 equals 0, which is the waiting action, then this will become 2 times 1 minus 0, which will be 2, and 0.75 into v3. Since u is 0, states will remain the same, and when you calculate this value, this will become 62. So you can see that infimum over all the control options will be 48.5. So if you want to minimize, then 48.5 is the infimum, and this is the corresponding optimal control policy. So part of the optimal control policy we have calculated that for the state 0 0 at time step 2, the optimal policy is to walk. Okay, so we have calculated this at the state 0 0 on the time step 2, the optimal policy is to walk rather than wait. We have calculated using this equation. Similarly, the optimal action in state 0 0 at time step k is equal to 2 is u is equal to 1, that is to walk. Similarly, we can calculate the optimal action for each state at each time step in the backward manner. First of all, there are 9 possible states, so we have to calculate 9. So we have to do 9 calculations of this similar fashion at time step 2, and then again 9 calculations of this similar fashion at time step 1, and again 9 calculations of this similar fashion at time step 0. So total number of calculations, so since these are 2 calculations, so 2 into 9, and 2 into 9 we have to do 3 times. So total 54 calculations for this example. And believe me that this is not the worst case. In worst case, in this case the each of the 9 states can go to 2 different states, 2 different future states. But in general case, every state could be transitionable to every other state. That is fully connected state graph that we will not discuss in this example or in this lecture, but computations can be much worse than this example. The good news is that we have computer programming and computer softwares that can take care of all the computations for us. All we need to do is set up the problem in the right manner and then write down the code, or in some cases we don't even have to write the full code for the system. We have to just specify certain things, and the computer softwares compute the optimal policy for us. And since the computation power of the computers has increased exponentially over the past few years, the dynamic programming and stochastic optimal control is likely to be much more common than it was before the computers, and before the increase in so much computational power. Because this theory is almost more than 50 years old, so maybe it dates back to late 1950s, 1957 or something like that. So computers only came into being around 1970s or 1980s, and then right now you all know that the computational power is extraordinary. Okay, so that's the end of the lecture, and in the end, as I always do, I will summarize the whole lecture in a couple of minutes. And today we discussed the optimal control, and in that we looked at controlled Markov chains, we looked at linear Gaussian systems, we looked at some properties of the linear Gaussian systems, and we looked at a control algorithm for Markov chain type models. And so we started with the stochastic feedback control system model. Here you can see that this model is very similar to what we discussed in deterministic control, but the major difference is the presence of random variables. And if you apply certain assumptions to these random variables, they follow Markov property. And then similarly we discussed that the Gaussian distribution, we revised it. It has a mean and a variance, and the special thing about this distribution is that it is completely specified by just mean and the variance. And if you have linear systems of this form, xk plus 1 equal a xk plus bu k plus gwk, y is equal cx plus hv, then assuming all of these are Gaussian, your state vector and output vector will also be Gaussian, and their distribution can be calculated from the distribution of given initial condition of the state and the distribution of disturbance and noise. And then similarly you can look at some properties, the asymptotic properties of the linear Gaussian control systems, and you see that for stable A matrix we have the asymptotic covariance for the state vector, which can be calculated using this linear equation, sigma infinity equal a times sigma infinity times A transpose plus G Q G transpose. And same equation appears in the next slide with the different kind of theorem, where you have instead of G Q G transpose, you have the B times B transpose, and this can only be happen if A B is reachable. And then if AB is reachable, and reachability is defined by this condition, which is very similar to the controllability condition of the continuous time linear systems. And then we looked at the finite horizon optimal control for Markov chain, and that was basically we formulated the problem first in terms of state dynamics, output equation and control policy. We specified the cost function as sum of incremental cost and the terminal cost, and we specify the horizon length capital N. Then we are looking for the optimal control policy, and one way to find optimal control policy is this is backward induction algorithm, which basically you define the terminal value function, and then based on terminal value function you calculate the value functions at time steps before the in the reverse order, using the possible values of the control law. And here you have to find the best control law for all possible state values at every time step. And we looked at this with the help of an example. An example was that a person is trying to get from home to the office without an umbrella with some probability of rain, and there the horizon length is 3. So we formulated the state dynamics for the problem, and that is the unstated or underlying challenge of every problem, that in classrooms we have pre-formulated problems, but in real life you are not given the specified the equations or the dynamical equations for the system. You have to formulate them based on the specifications of the problem. So this is also a useful or desirable skill to have, that is to formulate the problem correctly in the so that a certain tool can be used. So first of all we formulated the problem, and we formulated the cost function. This is the problem formulation, and once you have formulated the problem, now you are ready to solve the problem. And in this slide we solve the problem by calculating the value functions at different time steps, and evaluating different control policy options, and calculating control policies. We did not calculate the full control policy value, but we just specified how much computations will it take to actually calculate the control policy. And that's the end of the lecture. I hope you were able to understand most of it. If not, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you for listening.